Okay, I think we're at 2:05, so we're a little bit over when we thought. So I think I'm going to get started now. We have lots of people. We have a lot more that have signed up that aren't quite here yet, but we'll just roll it, and as they sign in, they'll get to hear. Okay, so we pretty much went through the first slide. Let's move it to the next one. Okay, so you're here about the workshop, the home seller workshop, systems, strategies, and solutions for selling smart during COVID-19. I'm going to go the right direction. So a little bit about who I am and what I do. For those that don't know, I am a real estate broker in Pennsylvania. I own a real estate company in St. David's. Tons of different degrees and awards and all kinds of things that you can read at your leisure. Let me just jump to the next one. The media. This one, which I'm most proud about, you'll see some radio interviews that I've been on Sirius XM, Kerry Lutz, a couple other radio shows talking about various real estate topics. You'll notice the hyperlinked ones down below when you get into the web, and I'm going to put my cursor. Let me just turn on my cursor a second so you can, excuse me, my laser pointer. Can you all see my laser pointer now? Okay, awesome. Right here, Philadelphia Inquirer front page real estate section. Notice that's hyperlinked in here. This one just ran last week. There was an article in the Philadelphia Business Journal. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will send a follow-up email, and we'll put links to those articles. If you want to read them offline, you certainly are welcome to, okay? So these are the 3 questions that I'm getting that people are asking me right now from pretty much everyone. The first one, does it make sense to sell your home during a pandemic? So let's talk about where we've been and where we're going. So pre-pandemic, homes were selling at a record pace. Our inventory was just about dissipated right before this started to happen. Interest rates had dropped down to, let's say, 3.25%, probably about a point and a half below this same time last year. So the market was really, really good. So the pandemic hits, then what happens? So we think what we're seeing already is supply has started to dissipate, meaning there are people that are taking their homes off the market right now, which is understandable. They're not sure. They don't want people traipsing through their house, whatever. They're going to wait, okay? And we still have very low interest rates, okay? So what we're going to see is affordability is going to improve. So with lower interest rates, that means people are going to be able to buy. However, the flip side of that is we're going to lose some buyers because of changes in unemployment, right? Unemployment's going to increase. It's already starting. Unless you're working at Amazon or the Acme or Wegmans, you're probably very secure. Otherwise, who knows, okay? But what we've seen in the past, if you study what happens in prior recessions, what we've seen is that home prices did decline. However, we are in very uncharted territory right now. So this is a pandemic. This is something new. No one really knows, but what we think will happen is when the dust clears and people come back out again, remember, right now, all these people would have been in the market buying homes. This is our busiest time of the year, so it's being postponed. I think the government's working on reduction of interest rates. So you're going to have a low interest rate environment. So is it a good time to sell now during a pandemic? We think an offer today could be much better than an offer you might get tomorrow, okay? So again, certain people, probably it doesn't make sense. You have a health condition or something. And we'll talk about that in the presentation today. Probably, maybe not a good time, okay? So the next question, question number 2, what people are asking me is, what happens to real estate now? So number 1, I'm going to start with, and I put my little laser pointer right there. What happens to real estate companies now? Let's start with that. So we've seen a lot of interruption in the real estate space. A lot of these companies have come in that are heavily capitalized. They're publicly traded. They've come up with all tricks and things that altered the old-fashioned process of real estate, which was a local person handling the sale of a property. And some of these companies have algorithms that determine pricing. And some of these companies have started to buy homes through a program called iBuyer. iBuyer is institutional money buying lots of homes. Well, guess what? There's a probability that some of these companies could disappear in this new landscape because their stock prices have depressed. They're not profitable to begin with. So these companies have started, never made a profit. They were projecting profits, in the future. So that, do we think that all these companies are going to be around? Probably not. We're going to probably see some of them disappear. The other point to keep in mind is that the local agent is the person that's going to win. And the reason we say that is because this is a business of knowledge and relationships, right? So those two ingredients are important, so that the local person who's got his, ear to the ground and knows what's happening is going to win. They have the experience to get through this uncertainty of what's out in the marketplace. The next thing that people are asking me is, what happens with retail? So retail, although we're today talking about home selling, I'm just touching on it. We think that Amazon was the first interruption in the space, and we think that it's now going to be accelerated because people are now getting accustomed and used to using Amazon and all these online portals. We think the retail market is going to further compress. You're going to see a lot of these stores, disappear at probably a much higher rate. I was reading the Wall Street Journal today, and all these companies are pulling on their lines and trying to, JCPenney and all these various other companies that are trying to figure out how to survive. And then finally, the office market, which, look at that. You're now a company, you're working at home, everything seems to be working. You have networks, you have VPNs, you have, conference calling, you have VoIP phones, all this technology. Do you really need the office space? So I think some offices will probably make a decision at some point to, it's a huge sector of their budget to probably cut office space. What do they need it for? That, it worked well. Yeah, you don't get the interactions. There's a lot of negatives, but I think it's an economic decision, and you'll see the office market change. And finally, the third question is, how can I sell my home during a pandemic? How do you do that? And my answer is, life events continue regardless of what's happening in the environment. So if, you have recessions, you have, whatever happens in the world, people still need to buy and sell homes, okay? Life events, that's downsizing, divorce, birth, other factors like that, things go on. And we're working on transactions like today, exactly with those fact patterns of people that they bought a retirement home, they need to sell their house, and they need to go. They need the proceeds to buy their retirement home, okay? And today we're going to talk about the virtual, how do you sell in a pandemic? A lot of it's going to be virtual, and we're going to talk about that because that's a big part of this presentation, okay? So there's a book involved. It's something I wrote, What You Really Need to Know About Selling Your Home. You can go to Amazon, you can pay $14.95, or today we're going to give you a digital version. So everyone that comes will be getting a digital version. We'll need some information, and then we'll send you the copy. And this is what we're going to cover today. What improvements are the right ones to make before listing? And finally, the second one is how to prepare your home in advance to ensure you get the highest possible price. And by the way, if you want to throw some questions up in the Q&A, I have a wonderful helper today, Samantha. Wave your hand, Samantha, so everyone can see you. Samantha's awesome. She's helping today on the webinar chat. She handles all the marketing for the real estate group that we're part of. She does about a gazillion other things besides marketing in the administration world, all kinds of things. But so thanks, Samantha. And if I miss something, please jump in and see if you can help them too.
Will do.
So when you're thinking about selling, what we talk about, and this is how the book follows this cycle all the way through. It's about changing your mindset, right? You have to take away the emotional distance, and you have to change the showing conditions of your home to appeal to the resale market. So what we mean about that is take away the pictures when Johnny was, in kindergarten, and then he went to Little League pictures, and then he's in elementary school and junior high school and high school and college, and he's driving and he's married and had kids. All those pictures disappear because you want to focus on the home. The clients that grasp that concept do the best. And then the next part is the preparation. How far in advance should you start? When should you start? A week, a month, 6 months, a year? And when should you have an agent visit you? Should they come in person? Or notice right here we have FaceTime, Skype, or Zoom tours. So that's what we've started. When I talk to you about how do you sell during a pandemic, this is how you do it. So we've already started that process. We're doing video chats of our seller properties. They hold the camera up, they walk through it, we look at it, we do the exact same thing that we normally would do, except we're doing it with technology, okay? And in times when you should start this process, we don't believe a week is enough time. We believe you should start 12 months, 6 months. And today we'll walk you through why. You'll hear in the presentation what needs to happen before, all that happens. And how do you do it? How do you get the house ready? So that's the improvement part. And we're going to talk about the concierge services. So, and you can visit, obviously you can do it after the presentation, but here, the website, and you can go to the website, and here's what you're going to find on the website, okay? These are the various vendors that we have for your use. There's several hundred of vendors, and in this, anyone that comes to the workshop, so you have lifetime access, no cost. You can call us, you can email us. We prefer you go to the web because we get a lot of people calling us and contacting us for people. It's a lot more easy if you just fill out the form and tell us what you want. The more information you provide, the better. For example, I'm just picking the painter category right here. And we have lots of different painters because it depends on, what kind of house you have. Is it an English Tudor? Is it a Victorian? Is it a colonial? Do you need a painter that can do it in a week? Do you want someone that's going to be inexpensive? We have all different people that we can connect you with, and we try to match them up. So the more information you provide to us, the better it'll be when you fill out that form, okay? Okay, so we're following the chapters in the book. We're taking you from the beginning of the process when you're maybe thinking about selling your home. Actually, first we're in a pandemic world, and we kind of covered that. That's not in the book. This is so new. I'm working on a new version. Probably in the next version, that'll be part of the book, but this version doesn't mention that. But it's going to walk you through the sequencing. And in the sequencing, we were talking about you might need to get some work done to make your house, maybe get it painted or do some things. So now we're taking you a step further. We're following the book, and we're at the pre-sale inspection. And we believe this is the single most important step in the entire process of the home selling. And the reason is you can get a lot of control. You're going to save yourself a lot of stress, and you're going to save yourself money, okay? Because that's what's really important. And this is from the perspective of the home seller, okay? There's ways to get rid of surprise problems and eliminate back-end negotiations. So here's how the pre-sale inspection works in a nutshell. And again, we do talk about this in the book. So the pre-sale is, instead of the old-fashioned way was, if you go back in time, when maybe you bought a house 10 or 20 years ago, when you bought the home, you would sign an agreement of sale, you would make it contingent upon doing a home inspection, and then you would agree to a price and terms, and then the home inspector would come in and inspect the home. And the home inspector is going to find things wrong with the plumbing, the electric, the roof, you name the issue, we've seen it and dealt with it. So the concept here is before the buyer finds out what's the issues are, we have our seller find. It's a preemptive strike. Before the buyer gets involved in the process, we have the information and we know what things are going to be issues. And it gives the buyer an opportunity it gives the seller an opportunity to correct some of those things. So if the home inspector says that I'm going to pick a very typical example. In a hot water heater, there is a temperature pressure relief valve. It's a piece of pipe that is connected to a hot water heater. And when pressure builds up in a hot water heater, this pipe is supposed to go to the floor or a couple inches from the floor and discharge so someone doesn't get burned. It would scald your face, your eyes, or whatever if it were to discharge. So many houses that get inspected are missing this, called a $10, $5 part, okay? But the home inspector is going to estimate high. So the concept is we can address this before the buyer gets involved. And the concept of doing the pre-sale home inspection in advance, maybe 6 months, maybe 12 months, is that we find out what the buyer is going to find out is wrong with the house in advance. And it's a security blanket, right? Because it makes them feel better, because we're going to give this to the buyer and we're going to, with a seller property disclosure statement and the pre-sale home inspection, the buyer will get this before they make an offer on our seller's home. So we are setting the expectation up with the buyer in advance of, here's what we know about the house, here's what things might be wrong, and by the way, you see this last little bullet point? It says contract language. We're going to put a clause in the agreement of sale that says something like this: exclude the defects identified in the pre-sale home inspection report performed by ASHI Home Inspector X on ABC date. So there's language specific. So we're going to give the report. We're not fixing every single thing that's wrong with it, but we're asking the buyer in advance not to renegotiate our price for things we know about already. If they find something new, then it's fair game. You can say something to us. So this is going to be the most difficult part of the presentation today, because it's got a lot of parts and pieces to it. And I'm hoping that it's clear to everyone. Certainly if it's not, we got a question. I was waiting for questions on this one. So you want to read it, Samantha?
Sure. It says, do buyers accept a seller's pre-sale inspection, or will they typically have their own done also? That's a really good question.
I love your question, Dean. And the answer is, what we find statistically, we've been doing these for the last, let's say, 9 years. 50% of the time, the buyer will absolutely accept our inspection. A couple reasons why that statistic is 50%. Number one, they don't want to pay the money again to do another inspection. Number two, our inspection, it's a very detailed report. It's got lots of data on it, and they feel good. The real point three, is that they theoretically have a buyer agent that's representing that buyer. And although the buyer agent is supposed to be representing the buyer, sometimes they're not, and they might advise their client, why do you need another one when we already have one? And it's another way to close a window. So they might try to discuss that with their client, their buyer client, and try to see if they don't do another one. And the other 50% of the time, Dean, is that the buyer will not trust us, will not trust our inspector, doesn't like us, whatever, and they decide we're getting our own inspection. Okay, great, knock yourself out, get another inspection. But don't forget, down here, this contract language, we're going to ask when we negotiate that contract before it gets signed, we're going to say exclude the defects that we know about in our inspection. I hope that answered your question. I know it's a long answer to a short question. That's pretty much the pre-sale. Again, it's probably the most difficult topic for today. So next, we're moving into the day-to-day contract. So this is a little different. Now we're at the point of time that we're taking you through the progression of the book, and we're starting at the beginning when you have your house and you might need to paint it, and then maybe you do a pre-sale inspection. Now we're taking the assumption that you're going to be selling your house sometime in the future. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 10 years, whatever. And you can have two choices. You can sell it on your own, or you can hire a real estate company. For the purposes of today in the book, we take the assumption that you're going to hire a real estate company. And in the purposes of the environment you're in right now, I think that it's going to be very challenging for a home seller to do it on their own, but that could be a whole nother workshop. So we're at the point where you're going to hire a real estate company and you enter into an agreement, okay? The agreement is a listing agreement. And what we find is that agents, I'm going to go to my little pointer. Most agents lock you into a contract. And some of the feedback we get from sellers who had their property on the market with company X, and then their calls to help them, is that their agent didn't return phone calls. They're not getting any feedback. The internet presence is very weak. There is no three-dimensional tour. We're going to cover this in detail today because when we talk about the virtual space, this is going to be huge. And then maybe they're not doing any direct mail or any marketing. So I'm going to move ahead. Those are the kinds of things that experiences people have, consumers have. So what we've tried to do to make it easier for our consumers that are selling is create something called easy exit, which means the door is always open. Here's our little graphic. And I'm just going to take you down to where my little marker is. And basically, the summary of this document is that our seller can elect to terminate us for any reason unless you're under contract or you're actively negotiating a sale. So by under contract, we mean, let's assume that your house has sold and you're a day before settlement and everything's good and you're going to go to settlement. You couldn't fire us at that time. That wouldn't be fair. That's why that's there. And then the other is if you're actively negotiating. So you're going back and forth with negotiating. And that's the only two times. Otherwise, I'm moving this over so I can see it. I apologize. So you can walk away for any reason. And
we want 2 weeks written notice.
And why did I not? Maybe I'm covered over with so many things. Yeah, 2 weeks. Thank you, Samantha. I was looking for that. I couldn't. Oh, there it is. Sorry. 2 weeks written notice. Thank you, Samantha.
Oh.
So that's the easy exit. And all the realty companies that operate in the marketplace don't operate that way because they have lots of people in their office. It would be very hard for them from a quality control standpoint to have an easy exit because their clients would leave them very quickly. So they make you sign 6 months or a year, and generally speaking, they don't let you out. And that's because they're corporately controlled. It's very hard to monitor quality when you have 150 people or 200 people in an office. If they offered that to their agents or to the public, they would lose a lot of business very quickly. So that's a little bit on the easy exit. Again, if you have questions, we usually get a bunch of questions here when we do them live. Feel free to put it in the Q&A section. If not, I'm going to move on. Now we're taking you through the book. We're going a little bit further. And we're in the active marketing part of the process. So that part of the process is, oh, we have a picture of someone down here. Okay, Samantha, you moved to my screen. That's okay. Enhancing your active listing. So now we're talking about what happens once your property goes live, and what does the marketing look like? What do we do to sell it? And more importantly, in the Corona age, what do we do to sell a property in the pandemic? Okay, so some things we've altered, some things we haven't. So here's what the first thing we do regards is still photography. That's images taken by a professional, extremely experienced. He has all kinds of special lighting, pictures of the inside and the outside of the home, okay? Now you see this little drone right here on the right side of the screen. It's in like orange. This is actually, we do some aerial drone photography, okay? And the way this drone works, it has little helicopter blades, and there's a camera anchored right under here. So what the photographer does is he launches the drone. He's got to get permission. He has to check flight paths of planes and all that, because we've had all kinds of, experiences in the past with certain properties that are closer to airstrips and whatnot. So he's very by the book, follows all the regulations, and basically will launch his drone up, get a very high perspective. Why do we do a drone image? It's because it makes the property look way more important. And the buying public likes to see what's near the house, what's behind the house, what do the neighbor homes look like. So those are the kind of images that are important. Then we go to copy, and this is where Samantha takes over, because the copy is written from a female perspective, not a male perspective. I used to write copy. I'm not permitted anymore, because when I write copy, it would be about the roof and the heating and the air conditioning and things that most people wouldn't be interested in, or the decision maker wouldn't be interested in. Who is our decision maker in a real estate? The decision maker is the female, okay? The male does not decide in most cases. It's the female. So the perspective of the copy has to appeal to the female. That's why Samantha starts, and we have a whole process in the team of different people that still will edit it, and I certainly do look at it and modify it and change it and all that, but Samantha is the one that really starts that process. And then the next one is, and you notice how this is hyperlinked, the direct mail link. That is, we're going to have a little goodie bag for you afterwards. Samantha will follow up with an email. Samantha?
Yes.
Okay.
With all of the links to everything we're discussing throughout.
Yeah, because this one's hard to display, but the way it works is that direct mail is it's old-fashioned, but direct mail is awesome. A number of things about direct mail. Most people don't understand it. It's used very infrequently because it's expensive and people have gotten away from it. So our response rate on direct mail has gone like through the roof, because we might be the only piece in the mailbox. And what's great about direct mail is you can target to your audience. So when Samantha sends you the link, I believe we'll be sending the contemporary one, Samantha? Or
I was going to send 2 samples. I was going to send them the horse, and it was a Chester County farm, and the contemporary home, just to show different angles.
Okay, so those 2 cards you're going to see. So one was, we sent it to the horse crowd. We, targeted people that own horses, stables, had subscribed to horse magazines. There's a whole funnel we follow. And instead of putting a picture of the home, what do we put on the postcard? It's a picture of the horse. And the reason is people like horses better than they like their spouses, their kids, anyone in their family. I'm not sure about dogs, because maybe they're close. I don't know, because I've never had a horse. And then there's another one with a contemporary home, and we took a picture of that, and that went specifically to other people that own contemporary homes. Why do I say that? Because someone that usually wants a contemporary home usually doesn't come from a colonial home. So we can really target very specifically with direct mail. And then the next one is a single property website. So this is really cool. This has the address of the property, and we create this website. And what's great about it is that it helps with search engine optimization, or SEO. So in the Google world, it's important to get your property to the top of a list. Top of a list is very important. If it's at the bottom of a list, the consumer, the buyer, whoever's looking at it, most likely is not going to pay any attention to it, right? Because if it's not at the beginning, there's been all kinds of studies. I even went back to school. I took a class on search engine optimization to understand how it works. And it's fascinating, things you can do with Google. So the reason we were doing these property website is we collect all the data about the property in one place. We create an address, the property address in the URL, and that gets launched, which helps when people are looking for that property, okay? And the final, but the most important, especially today with pandemic and all that's going on, is the 3D tour with virtual reality, okay? This is critical. And we've been using these, Samantha, for, did I come back with this crazy idea? Was it a couple of years?
A couple of years.
Okay, so I'm an early adopter. Like anything that's tech that comes out, I'm all over it. I saw it at a trade show in New York City, and it was a huge investment, but we said this makes total sense, and we've been using them ever since. What we find is every one of our 3D tours pre-pandemic was averaging about 754, was I right? 752 or 754 views. We have not looked at the counters. Have we, Samantha, looked at them lately?
No, I was going to give it at least a month to get real.
Because it takes some time, but we will. Our expectation is that these tours are going to go through the roof. Why? Because you get optimal protection while social distancing. And if you can all see this this is like a dollhouse view of a home. In it, you can move from room to room. There's this little blue circle, and you see the furniture and the windows and all. And what's cool about the tour is you can move from room to room. You can move from the first floor to the second floor to see what's on top of your room. You can look to see, geez, can I open this wall up? What's on the other side? Maybe I will. And it just answers tons of questions about the property. The reason they haven't taken off as much as they should is it's a huge investment in capital and time. So in time, these take a long time to produce. Our average one takes my Lisa, who I'll give her a shout out, my chief Matterport officer, probably 3 to 4 hours, 3.5 hours. We've had some where some of our larger homes, she was there all day. So it will go the gamut, but when you're done, you have this phenomenal, it creates this model, and they're cutting edge. People look at them. They're easy to navigate on computers and mobile, depending on what your preferred, if you're looking on a cell phone or an iPhone or whatever. And the way these tours are created, just to give you a quick sense of why it takes so long, is I'm setting my my pen, if you will, or my laser pen in this room. And I put it down because that would be point 1. So the way it happens is Lisa, the chief Matterport officer, or CMO, who produces it, happens to be my wife, Lisa. She'll come in and she'll set the device down in that corner. She has to leave the room, and she controls the computer camera with an iPad. And what that iPad's going to do is it's going to spin around, completely around, and it's going to go up and down. So it's shooting lasers of all the dimensions of the room, top, bottom. And it can see, like behind me, see this flag? It will be able to see the details of this flag. Like, you'll literally be able to zoom in and see incredible rich details. But once you've made one data point, you need to move 2.5 feet to do another one, and so on through the home till you're all complete. Once you're complete, it gets uploaded to a company, and it takes them about anywhere from, would you say, Samantha, 1 to 2 days maybe of computer time?
It's usually a 24-hour turnaround, except for the very large homes that, you know, we're talking 8,000 square feet or more. It takes probably 2 days.
Yeah. So the idea here is when you're done, it's really a great method. Why? Because in today's day, it's an open house 24 hours a day worldwide, and no one is coming to traipse through your home. Now, we have a house right now on the market where the seller has, let's just say, some health issues, and we've opted to put the home on the market, and the only showings are done virtually. So, and how are we doing that? That's because the consumer or the buyer is able to go and watch the video and the tour. It's lifelike. Not only is it lifelike, but I'm going to go to the next screen in a second. It creates a floor plan. So check this out. So this is a new listing. Dave Rantanen, who's on the team, and hopefully he's on the call. I can't see the whole list. Is he, Samantha?
He's here.
Okay. So Dave just listed this home, and I'm going to give a shout out. 529 Conestoga Road in Berwyn. Can we put that in the goodie bag, Samantha, and send that to people when this is done?
Yes, it's 429 Conestoga Road in Berwyn, and I have a link to that Matterport so that everyone could see how it works. I'll share that when I send the email. And I just wanted to mention that little circle on the previous screen that you were pointing out. It was blue on the other screen. It'll be white on their screen. And it will, you just keep clicking that and it'll guide you throughout the home.
So I have my mouse or my pointer on it right now. So this is like little circles all over the floor.
Yep.
You basically just touch it, and all of a sudden, boom, the camera will just zoom in on that section. It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this floor plan. Okay. So this listing, by the way, it's $769,000. It's in Berwyn, Easttown Township. It's an awesome house. When you see the virtual reality, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is a great house. So this just came on the market literally in the middle of all that's going on. So people still need to sell and buy. And this is the floor plan. So when we're done, when the chief Matterport officer comes back and she uploads the video to this company in California, Samantha, does this come back usually in about the same? Is it about 24 or a little bit longer?
Lisa will go to the property and film it and submit it, and then Matterport sends it back to me within a day, and then I have to order a floor plan, which takes another, it's never taken more than 24 hours. Okay. I usually get it back faster than that.
So this baby is a super, super duper computer, because think about what this technology is doing. Like, I'm on the kitchen right now. I just want you to look at this. Like, look at the window detail, the angles, the door swings, the fireplace. I mean, it shows you the appliances, the sink. I don't know if you can see it on here. Actually, you know what? I think I can, not cooperating, but I thought I could. I'm on a touch screen. I won't mess with it. But my point is, this floor plan is a game changer for a lot of reasons. Number one, look down at the bottom. You see where my my laser is? It has some square footage information. I want to just tell you a couple things about the square footage. Number one, these are internal measurements. So it's shooting, I'm looking at this master bedroom. It says 1210 by 20 feet, 5 inches. So it's those laser pointers. If you look at where my little laser is exactly where it stops, right here to here. And it goes from this point all the way to this point. Okay, so it knows room names, correct, Samantha? Like, we don't adjust the room names, or does Lisa?
Lisa does. I believe Lisa tells it.
Okay. But it knows like sinks, and it knows all kinds of information that's very helpful. So we've taken houses that are in need of, let's call, renovation, fix up, and you know, we've given these to architects, and architects look at us like, oh my God, who made this floor plan? And it's like, we did. So theoretically, these are really good for purposes if you want to open up the family room right here and maybe open into the living room. Well, you can use this plan. You can help place your furniture. There's a virtual piece where you can go online and you can put a tape measure to see how wide this door swing is right here, because I want to get curtains for it. It's got tons of things it can do. Excuse me. Oh, I want to say one more thing about that. The other thing about these floor plans and the three-dimensional, not all they on that, but they're also on virtual reality, right? So you can, if you have the goggles and all, you can watch all these with your, you need a pair of goggles, which I'm not going to get up out of the chair, but they're across the room. I normally have them, but whatever. You would basically put goggles around your face and you would snap your phone inside, and you're actually looking at this in a three-dimensional view of visual reality. So it's an immersive experience. It's beyond anything I've ever seen. It's really, really interesting. Okay. Any questions from anyone? Samantha, are we good?
We are good. Dave just mentioned about, he calls it a walking tour of the home. So that was the only comment we got.
Oh, it's like a walking tour. Yeah, because it is. You can kind of walk through it with your mouse. You're using your finger as a mouse or whatever and whatnot. Okay, now we're taking it further into the presentation. We're going to talk about internet presence and what we do and how does all that work. So here, this slide, we're showing you some websites we're on. We're on just about every single one. We don't know which is the best website. We know certain things like this one here, Realtor.com, 86% of the population goes here. But again, different things, you know, at different times can be better based on, you know, what's happening in their world and all. But we have a presence on all these various, you know, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Twitter, Instagram, of course, you know, our website, you know, we have brettfurman.com. Again, we're going to be on Zillow and Redfin and all these other sites, okay? But it's just important to know that it gets on all these sites. Oh, someone was joining, it looks like. An extra
My
guest.
dog. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So
the links, if everyone would follow us on social media, I will, in that email, I'll send links to all of Brett's, you know, social sites so that you can choose to follow us if you aren't already following us. It's good because he keeps you up to date on the real estate market and the trends, and we have lots of fun contests and great giveaways, you know, throughout the year, and we try to entertain you as well as educate you.
And we have a lot of we're working on a whole bunch of videos right now that we'll be rolling out hopefully in the next 2 weeks. All kinds of, we're working on a market update, like what's really happening in the market, what do the statistics look like, all that kind of fun stuff. We have some guests we're working on, some about the economy and is the interest rates going to fall lower? Should I refinance now? All those kinds of questions we're going to be addressing in those upcoming workshops, which you all will get a notification on. Okay, now we're taking you further through the book. And again, the book was what you really need to know about selling your home. We're now talking that you might be, you're going to, maybe you thought about moving, now you needed to paint your house, you had an inspection done, you decided you're going to list it with a real estate company, and they make a video and three-dimensional and photography and a drone and all that. Now we need to get people to schedule appointments to see your home, to come inside, or virtual. See this one down here? Virtual only appointments. Okay, so that's the new pandemic way, which is some people don't want anyone traipsing through their home, so we're doing it virtually. You can watch the video, you can look at the floor plan, you can see the photography, you'll see the home inspection report, you'll have all the data you need. Again, will that work for everyone? Probably not, but there are people that works fine for, okay? So in the normal way, we did, in-person showings, right? When you could shake people's hands and do all this stuff. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we use this automated appointment service. It's an awesome service. And the way it works is if somebody wants to schedule a showing, you have the property listed for sale, they would typically call the showing center, this automated system, 24 hours of the day, and schedule a showing of your home. And that doesn't mean that if an agent is online at 2 o'clock in the morning scheduling a showing that they're going to call you, the seller, and say, oh, I've got someone that's going to come at your house, come in at 8 a.m. We have the system programmed so that you can't call before. Are we doing 8 a.m., Samantha? I think it's 8 a.m., right? But it varies. It varies. Some of our clients have certain requests about they have pets, or they have family members, or they have an in-home office, or they have
work nights.
They work nights, and everybody's on a different schedule. So basically this appointment center can work and schedule to whatever you need. It will follow your exactly what you want it to do. Okay. And then what's great about this is, see the last item, and I'm going to get my little cursor down here, receive buyer feedback. And I'm going to show you some feedback. This is some of the statistics, the analytics. So we watch that for everything. The statistics and analytics and what we do is very important. So one of the things we like to know is, and what our sellers want to know is, someone came through my house, what did they think? Did they like it? Did they not like it? So I'm just going to pick one chart. Is your client interested in this listing, the first one? And you see the little blue, 6% were blue, were very, and then not interested is purple. So we watch these because we have very specific numbers and percentages we follow to realize that something's not right. Maybe it's a function of the season, or it's the holiday time, or the pictures were taken and there's snow on the ground and now it's sunny and beautiful and pictures need to be changed, or there are things that we can do. And we also get live feedback, meaning when the agent goes through to show the property, they send in actual commentary, and we do not edit anything that the agent says. We send it live to our client, the seller, and let them see it, because some things we can correct, other things you can't correct. So it's a great system for feedback. Any questions to this point, Samantha? Is there anything I'm missing?
So far, so good.
Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up, kind of getting close to the end. And we're going to talk in the book, which you'll get. It has the top 12 questions to ask. For today's presentation, we're only going to do the top 5 just from time. So these are questions we thought would be good if anyone in the audience who's thinking about hiring a real estate agent, a broker to sell their property in the coming days, weeks, months. These are great interviewing questions. And the first one is, how long have you been marketing real estate? And when we started the presentation, if you didn't see it, or it was on one of the earlier screens, basically said I've been marketing since 1986, which is a long time. And yes, they had, I think there was electricity in 86. We had no internet. The MLS, or the way the listings were a book. So that's all changed. But so again, my answer is in gold, if that is showing in your screen in gold or yellow. That's my answer. And then we're going to go to the next question. And that was, am I locked into a contract with you? If so, for how long? And my answer is no, you're not locked into a contract. Remember when we talked about earlier in the presentation about the easy exit listing agreement? And it said with 2 weeks notice for any time, if you're unhappy, you could exit. except if you're actively negotiating or pending sales. Okay. And then, oops, did I go the wrong way? Sorry, I do that.
You're right.
Okay, so question number 3, right, Samantha, 3?
Yes.
What is your average sale price to list price? Okay, so my average sale to list, the last time we did this, we were running at 98%. So if we put a home on the market for, I'm picking an easy example, for $100,000, we would typically sell it for $98,000. And then the rest of the market, when we last did this, was, and I can't see over to the, I have to just move this over, was 90%. There it is right there. So the rest of the market was running at 90%, meaning if they listed a home for $100,000, they would sell it for $90,000. Okay. And then question number 4, 4, right? Yes. What is your average? Oops, sorry. What is your average number of days on the market? So I'm right here. And the last time we did this, we were running at 37 days. The rest of the market was running at 94 days. Okay, so that's how many days? So that's a great question to ask a real estate person, because that's real relative. Like, how close do you get from what you asked for the property to what it sells for? And then this one is, how long is it going to take? And then the final question is, do you recommend a pre-sale inspection? And yes, I said that. If you remember earlier in the presentation, I said, yes, I do. And I think you can save, thousands of dollars. It keeps your transactions, in line. You can eliminate a lot of problems. Lots of benefits with the pre-sale. So thank you, everyone. And again, don't forget, if you could, to do the feedback, because I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can make these better, because we're going to be launching a whole bunch while we're trapped inside, practicing social distancing. So this is something to keep us out of trouble, and we'll probably have a whole bunch more for you.